Good afternoon and Namo Buddhaya. First of all, I'm absolutely privileged and honored to be, it's an honor to be here in this particular institution where I've been visiting from time to time, closely associated with the institute. And of course, this particular event is very, very special, very important, very critical because about Rahul Sankrityayan ji, very few people know actually in the public domain, and I was unfortunately not able to attend the keynote speech but by Professor Maya Joshi because that is something which I'm sure was very enriching. Maybe I'll get a note from her on or a copy of the speech so that or whatever. I mean, if she does it extempo, then I will not be able to, but otherwise it will be good to exchange notes. I personally had an idea about him from 1989-90 when I was actually posted in the Indian Embassy in Moscow in Soviet Union, and there is a very beautiful library there which normally invites people from the local community to come and spend time and do research on prominent personalities. So we had a team which was working on Russians, all Russians. They were working on Subhash Chandra Bose, his history, background. There was one team working on him way back in 89-90. And I suppose that is the Leningrad connection, etc. But at that time, I was not into Buddhism at that time. I had other work. So I did not focus much on their activities. But the library was under me because I was in charge of information and press. So they would come and meet me, and I've heard about him. I've seen his pictures. I've heard about the work they were doing. That is the first time I heard about him, and it's like a Dhamma Chakra, you can call it, after so many years. I'm coming back and to a event where we are actually remembering him and talking about him in depth. To begin with, of course, I mean, you have spoken so much. There are knowledgeable people here about the work which Rahul ji has done. So I will not go into it. He was, of course, a philosopher, a writer, an adventurer, I will say, a person whose travelogues were fantastic. There were a lot of people who traveled, but people, while traveling, being able to note everything bit by bit and put it on paper is something which is unbelievable, and in such a refined manner. Today, of course, you have recording devices. Today, you have the video camera. You have, all kind of tools by which you can, while touring a particular place, you can record pictures, videos, whatever it is. You can start talking to, the app, which explains to you which is this place, etc. Imagine at that time, this man was able to record in detail so much of content. And the interesting thing is that his mind was towards Bharat in terms of how to translate everything, how to put it on paper in terms of letting the people know and understand what he has seen, what he has experienced. So putting it in Hindi in perspective is a fantastic thing which has done. He actually opened the eyes of lakhs and lakhs of people to the outer world at that time. We heard about his journeys which he made to Tibet. It was not at all easy. He had to go in disguise from time to time. And I'm sure there were many challenges which he faced, which none of us know of. We only know of what is written, what we have seen. But there's a lot behind the scene which we are not aware of. I'm sure he has faced those challenges and has overcome those challenges. The kind of literary work which he has produced, all of us have spoken here about from Volga to Ganga, then Buddha Charika, then Mere Tibet ki Kathaएं, and all those books. The lot of them which have been spoken about here. We won't go into the details because the experts have spoken about it. I will just say one thing that, as a personality, what he was and what he is for today's generation is something which we need to bring out, because the Buddhist part of it, whatever he was involved in terms of getting the manuscripts back from Tibet. We always spoke about Xuanzang and Fayen and others taking away tons and tons of material from here, but nobody talks about Indians who have gone there. Somebody like him who's made serious effort to bring back manuscripts from there. So this aspect needs to be highlighted in the public domain, especially among the modern youth, the youngsters. This is a very big missing gap. Secondly, as an individual, as a character, I suppose this is in the DNA. I cannot become like him. You cannot become like me. That is how it is. But there is always an aspiration, a model you look up to. You may not achieve what he has achieved, but you will at least try and achieve somewhere. You'll reach somewhere short of what he has achieved. And I think as a model, he's a classic case who should be exposed and brought before the world in terms of his daredevil, really maverick tendencies of cutting across borders, going to places where he's sort of probably detained and arrested and all kinds of things, living in very parched land, suffering, and then getting revived, entering from Sikkim, getting out of Kathmandu, all kinds of unusual sort of adventures that he's been involved in. So this as a character has to be also portrayed. Like many of the speakers mentioned, that his determination, his ability, as they were saying that वो बैठने वाले लोग थे ही नहीं, वो इंसान ही ऐसे थे कि भागते रहते थे, दिमाग में कुछ भी होता तो वो भागते रहे. किसी को उन्होंने बोला कि मैं 50 साल के बाद वापस आऊँगा, यहाँ से अभी निकल रहा हूँ. That kind of determination is something, and he did it actually. It's crazy. So as a symbolic sort of characterization of a personality, we have to portray him also. So I think we will see. I was just talking to Professor Joshi that maybe if everything works out fine in a modern day scenario, we can consider preparing a film which is not like a documentary film but more of an attractive storyline, something which these platforms like Netflix etc. play, an OTT platform or something like that. It's not very easy these days, but his story is something which is very mesmerizing, and I'm sure we will find a lot of takers for this. So we will work on it. But now coming back to my topic, we are talking about legacy. I mean, what Rahulji did was primarily, he was a diplomat in a way. I mean, he traveled to all these countries and met a lot of people, whether it is Mongolia, Russia, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Tibet. But he's just been a representative of the country, and he's carried the message of the Buddha. He's brought back a lot of material belonging to the teachings of the Buddha back to the country. Now, this is a work which in a way we also do in the IBC, in the International Buddhist Confederation, in the present day scenario. There has been a huge gap in terms of our promotion of Buddha Dhamma abroad. Whatever we have, it is here in the country, but in terms of connecting with other countries, not much has happened in the past. When I say past, I mean maybe about 30, 40, 50 years. We are existing for the last 10, 12 years. Our organization is a very small organization, just about 8 or 9 people and a team of 3 or 4 advisors. It is extremely tough for us to do things which the entire foreign ministry in India does, which is diplomacy. So we cannot do that, but whatever that we can do, we try to achieve, and in a systematic manner to highlight India's Buddhist tradition, heritage, background, philosophy in the best possible manner in countries which are primarily Buddhist countries. So I'll just go through some of the areas which we have been focusing on. These are a part of India's Buddhist legacy and heritage, and how we work on this. All of you know, of course, the Emperor Ashoka was the man who actually spread Buddha Dhamma in different parts of the world. Not much is spoken about him in different countries, unfortunately. When you travel to different places, somebody out of 3, maybe 1 chap will say that, I'm talking about Buddhists. One will say, yeah, Ashoka, I know Ashoka, that's it. But who Ashoka is, they don't know. Whereas Buddhism was brought to his land by one of the emissaries of Ashoka. So we found that this is a very important subject on which we need to work. So we are doing a few projects. We have signed an agreement with the Mahachulalong University in Thailand, and we are doing a project because there is a lot of keenness on them to make their people aware about Ashoka's role. Because two of Ashoka's emissaries by the name of Sona and Uttara, they had gone to Thailand and they had come back and reported to him that we had seen a land of gold, Swarna Bhumi. And that is actually the name of the airport in Bangkok today. When you land, if anybody goes to Bangkok, you check up on Google, Swarna Bhumi is the name. So it is from that time. But nobody knows the Ashokan connect. So we are trying to build up a story narrative in Thailand on that particular aspect. Similarly, in Myanmar also, we found that there is a lot of keenness on understanding Ashoka's legacy. So we have just about 1 week back, we have signed an agreement with a famous university there. It's called the Sitagu Siadu Buddhist Academy, SIBA. We've signed an agreement to do some research, thorough research on Ashoka's contribution and how Myanmar has benefited from his contributions. Similarly, in Sri Lanka, what we have done is we have been working with a few Nikayas. One of the Nikayas known as the Vasavada Nikaya, which is it's located about 1 hour distance from Colombo. There we actually have completed the Ashokan pillar. What you have here, the pillar, exactly a replica of that pillar. We started about a year back. There was financial shortages. We don't have the money. We have to raise from here and there through Sri Lankan authorities and organizations. We finally have completed that pillar. As of now, as I talk to you, the pillar is ready. And the idea is that if you know, Ashoka's son and daughter were the ones who took Buddha Dhamma, the teachings, to Sri Lanka. So in that country, we are planning to have several pillars, in fact, 1 pillar in each province. So this is the first of its kind, and maybe, in future, if somebody senior goes from India, he will launch that particular pillar or inaugurate it. So this is the kind of work we are doing across 3-4 countries on highlighting Ashoka's legacy. We are also planning to do a movie on this. It's a very challenging assignment, but we have somebody who's interested, and manuscripts, etc., has been given to him to work on it. We'll see. It may take 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. It's a big project, but it is a one-time investment in something which the government wants to do to highlight the contribution of Ashoka. Then when you come to traditions, this is the land which is the origin of all the traditions, whether it is the Theravada, the Mahayana, the Vajrayana. So when you talk about Mahayana, we have been trying to engage countries which are very far from India and sometimes remote, and have strongly embedded Mahayana tradition and value systems. For instance, Mongolia. Now, Mongolia for 70 years, it was till 1991, it was a communist country. The communists did not allow any practice of religion. Buddhist practices were not allowed. Several monks were detained and even killed. So it was a very challenging and difficult country. But after 1991, Mongolia, after the breakup of the Soviet Union, Mongolia became sort of independent and free of the communist empire, and they started practicing Buddha Dhamma full scale. But it's very interesting, at that time, Indian government had decided to post a Ladakh-based monk by the name of Kushak Bakula Rinpoche. He was sent to Mongolia in 1990. He had gone there before the breakup of the Soviet Union. He went in 1990. I had the good fortune of meeting him because I was in Moscow and he went to Mongolia via Moscow. So, he, when in 91 the Soviet Union broke, and people wanted to learn about Buddhism, they didn't have any gurus because there was no question of any guru or a monk or a Rinpoche existing. So Kushak Bakula ji, who was our ambassador, actually became the guru. And every day in the morning, 200 to 300 people would come outside his house to get his blessings. So he even got involved in local politics and tried to sort out differences between Mongolian political parties. Then Mongolia has border with Russia. And there are 3 republics of Russia. They are known as Buryatia, Tuva and Kalmykia. These are three republics which are Buddhist republics. Traditionally they have been Buddhist, but they could also not practice Buddhism firmly in the past because of the Soviet rule. So they also wanted to learn about Buddhism. So Kushak Bakula Rinpoche traveled to these republics also, all the three republics, and he was very popular. Now he was there till 2000, 1990 to 2000. After 2000, 10 years he was there, and the government felt that, he can spend his life there because he's a guru, let him be there. But after 10 years, I think his health gave in, and he had to come back. Now, after his coming back in 2000, after a few years, he passed away. And today, people have forgotten about him. Nobody is talking about him. So, what we did was, again, this is a kind of a full chakra for me because I'd met him at that time. And then, after coming in IBC, I studied his background. And I felt something should be done to remind people of Mongolia and Russia about this great person. I traveled to Mongolia also, and I found there is a lot of following. His monastery, he's very popular. So what we did was, in short, we prepared several statues of Kushak Bakula, some of them 6 feet, some of them 10 feet, some sitting, some standing. And we have sent these statues to Mongolia, 2 of them to Mongolia, 3 of them to the 3 republics in Russia, Kalmykia, Buryatia, Tuva. One is in St. Petersburg. He has a strong following in St. Petersburg. So we have a statue there in a monastery, in a park of his. And there is another one which is now going to Moscow. We have found a particular spot where it can be placed in a monastery on the outskirts of Moscow. Nowadays the Russian government is quite open and forthcoming as far as Buddha Dhamma or Buddhism is concerned. Maybe because of the conflict with Ukraine or whatever it is. But so we are trying to do that. So now, when you talk about manuscripts, again, this is something which Rahulji obviously struggled so hard to get back from different countries. There is a lot of material. I was listening to people, translations, etc., Sanskrit to Tibetan, Tibetan to Hindi, etc. A lot of material which is still missing. I will not go into details, but we do a tracking of the location of these material, even if it is in Tibet. There is a lot in Nepal also. In certain places we've identified, we have got in touch with them. We're trying to work with the Nepali government to get hold of those manuscripts. There is some which is available in Mongolia. There is some which is available with the Western academicians, very valued manuscripts. So we are trying to engage them and trying to get them back. So this is the kind of work which we also do on the manuscript front. And this is an important area where our focus is going to be primarily to get into digitization. The Ministry of Culture does this job, but we guide and direct and help and assist them in this whole process. When you talk about, I was telling you about the traditions about Mahayana. We as far as Vajrayana is concerned, again, it's an area which is a little complex for us to get involved in. So Bhutan has a very strong Vajrayana tradition. So 2 years back, we helped the Bhutanese government to hold the first international Vajrayana conference. It was a very big conference with about 5,000 people participating. We helped them, we guided them, and supervised the entire event, the first event of its kind. After that, of course, now they're doing it on their own. They had another event in 2024. I'm sure they'll have another one this year. So that is the route we have taken to encourage Vajrayana tradition studies and research, etc. Many of our scholars are sent to these forums to understand what is happening there. Then I come to, Pali and Vipassana. Again, 2 areas. It's very unfortunate if you look at conferences on Pali which are taking place in foreign countries. There are hardly any Indian participants. There is a conference which is happening in August in Germany, and I was looking at the list of participants. About 55 of them are there. There are 4 Indians. All of them are Germans, Italians, Americans, British, on Pali language. So this is something where we have a lot of gap to be filled, and this institute, of course, does a lot of work. We again have set up a very interesting group. It's just happened 1 month back, where we have taken experts from Thailand, Myanmar and Sri Lanka, the 3 countries where Pali is still actually used as part of the exams. and we've interacted with these 3 countries. So experts from these countries and from India will form a group, and they will analyze and study and do a futuristic assessment in terms of what needs to be done to improve the relevance of Pali language. And this falls in line with, of course, the priority of the government and the Prime Minister himself. And we will certainly, I was just telling Maheshji that we will try and involve the Sarnath Institute for this purpose. Vipassana is again something, which has been sort of our ancient heritage, but somehow has not been with us for long years. It became more prevalent in Myanmar, and in fact, when we tried to do a Vipassana conference in Thailand, the Thais actually were very angry, and we didn't realize why are they angry with a Vipassana conference. Then it turned out that the Thais have differences with Myanmar, political differences, and they consider the Vipassana as a Myanmar practice, not an Indian practice. So they were totally negative. So we had to convince them that this is the history of Vipassana. The origin is from here. It has gone to Myanmar, and Goenka ji has brought it back to India. Now, this is the procedure, this is the channel. And the Prime Minister has also mentioned about this. In fact, last year, beginning the 100th birth centenary of Goenka ji, he specifically mentioned that this is our ancient heritage and it should be with us. So we are working on that also. We do a lot of conferences on Vipassana across different countries, wherever we get a chance. We've built a strong network. We work with the Bombay Vipassana Research Institute. They send their professors through us to different locations. We've done programs in Vietnam, Cambodia, different places. So again, trying to build on the ancient heritage of ours. Mental well-being and health is another area where we are working seriously. It's something very, very much required in today's world. So there are different projects which we are doing. One which is very important is we have some scientists from American institutes. They're basically Indian origin who thoroughly know Buddha Dhamma. They've studied and they are neuroscientists. And some of them have been working for 30, 35 years. One of them has an institute in his own name in one of the American universities. So we formed a group of 4 or 5 such experts who are working together to formulate some kind of a policy and implementation-wise practical application from a practical application point of view, certain projects which can be offered to the Ministry of Health in our government as well as in other governments. Similarly, communication is another thing. As I said, people don't know much about Pali and Vipassana. People don't know much about Rahulji. Communication is very critical here. We have to communicate across the world. And today, we are living in a world where communication is very, very easy. There are different avenues of communication. So we do a lot of work on communication. We did a media conclave a few months back in September 2024. It was a global media conclave where we had participants from about 30 countries. They were journalists. They were Buddhist journalists as well as traditional security and political experts from papers like Pravda to papers in Taiwan, Korea, Japan, etc. And it was a very hectic brainstorming session where basically we discussed as to how communication can be used to promote Buddha's principles, his values, his message of wisdom, compassion, peace, all of that. So it was something which is an ongoing process now. We also did, very interestingly, a film festival just about 2 weeks back where Professor Joshi was also there. And the idea was primarily to identify young Indian directors and producers who have made films on Buddha Dhamma or anything related to Buddhism. And we managed to get at least 7 of them. Brilliant young people, not much known about, but fantastic films on Padma Sambhava, on the life of geishes, on the life of a young Tibetan refugee who comes to India. Interesting stories, interesting themes about Kushak Bakula. So, and of course, there were 2-3 films on His Holiness also. So, this is something very important and we do on a regular basis. This is a small experimental project on the film festival, which we are going to do in a larger scale probably at the end of this year or maybe early next year. And the last, not the least, is the relic the soft power. People were talking about the soft power, as Rahul ji was also and is also a soft power. The relics are very important for us. The relics which we take abroad for display are the relics which are in the National Museum in Delhi. And we also take the relic which is in Sanchi. These relics belong to Sariputta and Mogalan. So in 2023, we took the relics of the Buddha only to Mongolia. And for some reason, for the last 7-8 years, Buddhism had witnessed a little downrun, I would say. And in fact, the Indian Buddhism or the connect with India had gone down. There were other countries which were putting their foot forward in Mongolia. But by taking this particular relic to Mongolia in 23, it was a complete changeover. There was an overwhelming response among the people across age groups, across generations. The Prime Minister, President, the Cabinet, everybody attended to the relics. Similarly, we took the relic to Thailand in 2024, just last year, and we displayed the relic in 4 cities in Thailand. And we had a total sort of viewership of 4.5 million people. 4.5 million Thais came to see the relics in 4 Thailand cities. And tremendous sort of response in terms of making them realize what India is all about. Making them realize that this is the land from where the Buddha's enlightenment took place, and his parinirvana, his enlightenment, parinirvana, his of course birth took place in Lumbini. We consider Lumbini as part of the Buddhist circuit. In fact, we are, as IBC, doing a very big project in Lumbini. It's a 100 crore project which the government of India is doing, and we are actually managing it. Almost 95% of the project is complete. We have a team which is going to decide the beautification of the India International Center, which is going tomorrow, in fact, to Lumbini, 7-member team. So we are not ignoring Lumbini. We are taking Lumbini also into consideration and creating a tourist circuit which is going to be an inviting proposition for foreign tourists, foreign Buddhist tourists especially. I must mention here that the present Culture Minister, Minister for Culture and Tourism, he's very keen on promoting the Buddhist circuit, because when you talk about legacy of India or India's Buddhist legacy, you cannot do without the Buddhist circuit. You have to show people what you have, and that is the reality. So I was asked by the Tourism Ministry just a few days back that we have people coming only to those 5 or 6 famous places, Sarnath, Bodh Gaya, Vaishali, Kushinagar, but there are so many other places in India. So how many can you identify? So we identified 66 places which are still not tapped. They are all over the country, from south, east, north, west, and they are working on a project where they will slowly identify these spots and somehow bring it into the public domain. Maybe on an important day like the Vesak Budh Purnima or Ashad or something like that. So we are working on that project with the Ministry of Tourism and Culture, being the idea being that we build a strong narrative. And also high-end tourists, Buddhist tourists. If you see, mostly monks are coming to the traditional Buddhist places. Countries like South Korea, Taiwan, Japan have very, very high-end Buddhist tourists who don't come here because they are very conscious about hygiene, security, lot of issues. So there is a plan by the Ministry of Tourism to set up a hub, something like the Aero City you have in Delhi. It is a cluster of hotels, 3-star, 4-star, 5-star, with beautiful ponds and lakes. That will be the central hub somewhere in along Bihar-UP border, from where people will be traveling all across. So this will probably take another 2 years to happen. So there's a lot which is happening, and we as IBC participate in these ventures to the best possible extent. And look forward to cooperation from all of you. Thank you very much. Thank you.